All Michael's sessions are recorded and shared publicly to support those through these teachings too. And all my events for Hear My Voice Book Club can be found on Meetup, which is an inspirational self-development books. Not got much left this week. Oh, we've got children's story time tomorrow, children's cardio, children's story time tomorrow, and then cardio workout on Sunday. There's no session on Saturday. And Sunday we've got meditation at 9 AM as well. The 5 AM club restarts on Monday the 3rd and is for that full week on the 3rd of July. We've got our next monthly book club, which is Thursday the 6th of July, 10:30 and 8:30 PM. We do have in-person events in Manchester and Liverpool, second Wednesday of the month in Manchester and the last Wednesday of the month in Liverpool. We do have WhatsApp groups keeping people connected. As Hear My Voice Book Club runs non-profit events, so everyone can take part regardless of financial status. And any donations I asked tonight, if they go directly to Michael to support him in these teachings and show appreciation for him joining these sessions and coming to support us. So Michael's also got a course coming. If you want information, I will send you the full flyer of this on through email. So this is an Empowering 10 Weeks Zoom intensive with Michael. It would be a Saturday and Sunday. We're thinking about maybe 8 PM till 10. The dates to be confirmed. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Imagination is more important than knowledge. The only real and valuable thing is intuition. So it's a course on intuition. If anybody's interested, please message and say that you are interested so we can get an idea of numbers of who'd be interested in joining. We're just going to start off with some short. Say again, sorry.
Hello.
Hello. So we're just going to do some shoulder rolls. So taking some nice deep breath in, draw up the shoulders. And exhale as you bring your shoulders back and down. Nice deep breath in, draw up the shoulders. And exhale as you bring them back and down. One more time, nice deep breath in. And exhale. We just like to get our bodies moving, just giving it a good shake out, ready for the session. I'll just play a little bit of music and move it in any way you want to. You can stay sat down and move it. It's just shifting your old body's energy, ready for the session. So today we're going through a reality management worksheet, and Angela has kindly offered to do worksheets. So you can go through the worksheet. As we're going through the worksheet, you can write down yourself whatever issues come up for yourself, but the focus will be on Angela's worksheet. But obviously if you have any questions, please just raise your hands and then we'll get to your question as we go through the worksheet as well. Did Michael want to share anything? Let me introduce Michael, actually. Did you want to introduce yourself, Michael?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I'm Michael.
Yeah.
And this worksheet's a device that's been in development for 42 or 43 years. The version we're going to use of it today is probably at least version 4050. It has changed sometimes as we discovered new ideas from the ancient Aramaic language and our work with that over the last 40 plus years. Refinements has come in, and who knows what we'll learn today. So I'm looking forward to what unfolds, what the questions look like. The whole focal point of forgiveness, a la first century Aramaic language, has nothing to do with what our culture has taught each of us about forgiveness. You know, we live in a culture that's taught me that if I'm in pain, of course, my pain is caused by you, and I should forgive you for my pain. Which, of course, if I let you off the hook for my pain, have I done anything to address what my system is generating? In the first century Aramaic language, they had a technology, a tool that showed you exactly how to collapse the end result of the pain-producing mechanism inside of you, address and remove the root of the pain, so that something could happen. You know, somebody does that thing to you again, and you sit and you look at them and you go, well, that was a little strange of you to do, but there's no pain response in you because there's no pain response in you. So that's what we're aiming for, is literally to engage in a technology that removes every pain response from your physiology, from your emotions, from your experience, period. So in a nutshell, that's where we're going. And so does that leave anybody with a question before we step into doing a worksheet? If so, push one, raise your hand, and turn off or turn on your microphone. Otherwise, when we're talking, perhaps if everyone would, if you'd mute yourselves, then we'll not have any interfering noise in the background. So thoughts for anybody? Make sense?
Yeah.
Well, then let's go for it. You're going to lead the game and I'm going to support you, right, Yinka?
Yeah. So, oh, yeah. I might need quite a bit of support.
Yeah, you've got all you need.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
So don't worry if you've not got the worksheet, you will see all the slides will have each question. So to focus on, so when we go through the worksheet, if any triggers come up, remember that to breathe, to remembering that to hold your breath, because holding your breath is exactly how you acquire a past about something and carry it with you. Holding your breath attaches the pain of an experience to a reality in the mind. So remember to breathe. We will constantly remind you to breathe and to notice what the breath is doing. So the reality management worksheet, my reality, perceptual output constructed by my mind, wake up sheet, change your mind, change your life, the how-to of the true Aramaic forgiveness, the tool for waking up from and changing my reality. Premise, my essential nature, my human life, my very being is love. Hold a newborn baby. The goal of this internal forgiveness wake-up sheet is to empower me to remove fear or hostility and return me to the direct experience of love 24/7, 365 days. So we're going to start off with writing down 1A, I, and then Angela, obviously, I'll say your name because you're going to be doing it. So I, Angela, who am love, I'm experiencing, and then identify emotion that you're experiencing.
And you notice it says use a separate worksheet for each emotion.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to see as things unfold is that there's a specific cause behind each emotion. And as you learn to collapse into those causes behind the emotions, each one is a different gift. Each one is a different opportunity. So just pick one, maybe the one that's strongest for you around whatever the situation is that you're going to work on, and we'll make that the emotion we work for you today. And again, if each of you wants to do a worksheet as we're going, and one of the things over the years that many people have shared with me when they pick this tool up is what they've done is they've gotten themselves a really nice journal type book, something that's comfortable that they like to look of and like the feel of, and the pages lay open easily and such. And they actually write, at least in a shortened form, if not the whole thing, each idea in the worksheet out as they do it. And then they've got a record, and they keep a record of those worksheets. And what we found over the years is that each time you revisit a worksheet, you'll discover new things about yourself and see new opportunities. And we're looking here in 1B, well, first of all, to start out with the acknowledgement of who you are. One of the biggest challenges, my take at least, in our society, is that we've had hidden from us the fact that we are by nature love. And we have all kinds of thought disorders about ourselves that take us away from our true nature. So starting out with naming yourself and acknowledging who you are is a really important step that at first may not make much difference, but there'll come a point where that'll kick in and it'll change everything. And then what are your emotions? And oftentimes people will substitute, they say, well, I'm feeling like, they shouldn't have done that. Well, that's not an emotion, that's a thought. And oftentimes in our culture, people will substitute thoughts for emotions. We want the words to describe. What are you feeling? Anger, rage, fear, guilt, grief. Words that actually describe your emotional state is what we're looking for in 1B.
So, Angela, did you want to share your emotion?
Hello, I think my primary emotion is fear.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the primaries behind just about everything.
Mm.
So you might want to
fear and or hostility. And hostility is an anesthetic that people use to avoid their fear, usually.
Mm.
You might want to date it. And my emotional upset level before, so your level of fear from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what would you say it is at?
I would say 7.
A 7.
So we got a big one going here. Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So for anyone else that is doing it, remember to breathe. And if you can draw that emotion, what does that emotion look like? Often when I do these with other people, they always often say, like, I don't know what to draw because I can't draw very well. And this isn't about having the perfect drawing, it's allowing yourself to draw the emotion.
Yeah, it might just be a squiggle, whatever would represent to you that emotion here at the beginning of the worksheet would be the drawing you'd want to use. We're not looking for a piece of art. And if you'd like, Angela, you could show us a picture of what your drawing looks like.
Stop the sharing so we can see it. That's a squiggle.
It's a squiggle. It's just.
Oh, that's definitely a squiggle.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like there might be some confusion with that. That be
Yeah, it's like
accurate?
chaotic kinds of just I can't picture anything to draw. It's just blackness, really.
Okay, it's right on track. And what's happening with your breath when you think about that, when you tap into that?
I've got this feeling of, it's like with my breath, it's kind of, I think my breath, I want to hold on to my breath, you know, it's kinds of that, I don't know, just, yeah, feel like I feel kinds of trapped in a way.
Okay, make a note of that word trapped. Actually, when you go down to the section D where it asks about your thoughts, trapped will be one of those thoughts.
Yeah, trapped and imprisoned.
Okay.
So mighty now displaces my experience of myself as my essence, love, and my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my trigger. So 1C, who are you focused on?
So there's an object of attention in this situation, Angela.
Who
or what is it?
A restaurant.
Restaurant, okay. And the situation?
There's a new restaurant has opened next door to me underneath my flat, and
Right.
it's causing I feel it, my flat to vibrate
Right.
because of their what's the word, sorry, the
Kind of loud and obnoxious?
sorry, no, the what is the air unit called? The extraction fan.
Right.
And just the noises outside of the people coming in, and the staff cooking outside. I can smell all it's an Indian restaurant. I can smell all the food, and I feel as if I've been violated, you know. Yeah, that's my perception of the story. I looked on social media. The restaurant is very popular, and the owner of the restaurant has, well, she's been telling the customers that I've made complaints about her, and then people are writing nasty things about me.
Well, it sounds like there are two things happening here.
Mm-hmm.
One, my offering would be, and it sounds like the fact is that probably your living space is not going to be comfortable with all of the intrusion that's happening there. That sounds like perhaps just the physical fact of the thing.
Yeah.
Which might mean that either you or she is going to have to leave.
Well,
That's
it's not going to be them. It's going to have to be me, you know.
Right. So that's one aspect of it. But the other, you know, I mean, if I didn't have this reality in my mind, and I'll just ask the question that I often ask is, how does it look like your life to feel trapped? Have you ever used that word to describe your life before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Violated and kind of trapped. Yeah. Imprisoned.
Okay. So just to distinguish, there's a physiological event that's happening that probably isn't reasonable for you to live in. And perhaps one of the reasons you've been drawn there, and that restaurant's been drawn to you, is so that you can look at and heal this part of you that holds this energy of being trapped and violated. As opposed to, you know, gee, I'm living here, somebody moves in next door, they've got the right to be there, I've got the right to be here, but it doesn't work, so I think I'll make some other arrangements. That sounds like it very well might be the physical circumstance, but beyond that, the opportunity to heal these issues of being trapped and violated are really important, so that if it ends up that you have to move on from here, that you do it freed of that you benefited, in fact, from this experience. It happened, that's the way it is, but you don't have to carry that on in your physiology. So from that perspective, perhaps if you really step in and forgive this old reality that you've experienced more than once in your life, this will actually be a beneficial experience by the time you finish with it.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to entertain that as a possibility?
I think I have to. Yeah. Yeah, because it's something that keeps happening to me. And I felt that when I moved here, this flat was just like, it was just in the location that I wanted. It's just so peaceful and quiet. And, when I moved from London, because I had very difficult neighbours in London, and I thought I never want to experience that kind of situation again, really. And then I moved here, which I thought was absolutely idyllic, and then a restaurant opens underneath me that's kind of like causing all my comfort zone to everything to change, really, for me.
Well, I acknowledge you for the power that you have, that you go and you find this place that you don't have to face this thing that's inside of you, but you're so powerful that you pull somebody in to do it to you again. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. How did I do that?
Well, you might want to go when we're complete here. You might want to go and listen to the archive of today's radio show. From 1 till 2 o'clock Eastern time. Here in the States, we do a radio show called MindShifters Radio. And if you go to our website is www.whyagain.org. If you go there, there's a microphone on the page for our radio show. If you click that, then drill down, it'll take you right to today's show, the archive of today's show.
Right.
When you go to that, it's actually a 2-hour archive. You want to go through the first hour. The best way I know to do this, because some podcast programs won't let you fast forward. You have to listen through the whole thing. And I don't even know, a partner of mine does the first hour and I do the second hour. So I don't know what he talked about. That might be useful to you too. But exactly what you just said is what we talked about on the radio show today.
Yeah.
And so that might be helpful. And just in terms of a miniature explanation, we won't go into the whole topic. I spent about 30 minutes on it today on the radio show. But basically, one of the biggest atrocities to me that's been done to us as human beings down through the ages is that we've had hidden from us the fact that we are by nature creators. And there's this energetic law that runs the universe. It's called the law of resonance. Perhaps you might remember one day in high school or grade school, they did a science lesson and they took a tuning fork and they hit the tuning fork on a desk and the tuning fork started to vibrate. And they took a second tuning fork that was standing still and put it near the first one. And what happened to the second tuning fork? It started to vibrate. Literally, if I've got a middle C here and a middle C here, this one starts vibrating. The second one starts to go too. It's a transfer of energy. Now, if I had a middle C tuning fork vibrating and I put a middle A in front of it, nothing would happen because there's no resonance. There's no energy exchange. So our thinking is like a tuning fork. Back, many, four decades plus ago, I used to keynote at a conference called Global Science. And one year, a 23-year senior scientist from IBM, a man named Marcel Vogel, presented at the same conference I was speaking at. And he brought a thing called a Delaware camera that was created by an Englishman named George Delaware. And the camera had a device on it that, like a radio tuner, you could tune the camera to what frequencies the aperture would register. And if you tuned the camera properly, you could take a picture of the energy that was moving in front of the camera. So the whole upshot of that, what Marcel brought that camera to show us, was that he could take a picture of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. If we had a Delaware camera, we could take a picture of the high energy wave leaving the tuning fork as it vibrates. And everything that vibrates in us, everything that moves, is a frequency. And, you know, it radiates out from me. It isn't something that I consciously, purposely do. Anything that moves, by definition, is energy, and anything that moves creates an energy wave. So if you hold, oh, neighbors, noise, bother, boy, I never want that to happen again. Boy, I'm going to move somewhere where that'll never happen. Then the high energy wave that goes out from me is there anybody out there that can come and be my neighbor and disturb me?
Yeah, that's what's been going on. As soon as, you see, they started with the restaurant, I suppose they started building it kind of like in February, and straight away from there my thoughts are going kind of crazy, like I can't believe this is happening. This is like this restaurant coming here, all the people are going to come out here, and the cars are going to be parked outside, there's going to be the smells, and then, you know, they've built more stuff in, so that my back garden is kind of like I can see all the staff go into the kitchen, and it's what I thought is happening. Yeah, it's actually happening. That my worst kind of dream is a kind of like.
Well, you know, it's surprising. It's interesting. There's a book about that. It's called "Why Is This Happening to Me Again?" And if you haven't read it, Yinka in the notes has a link. You can read it free. You can download it from the website free. But that's what it's all about. It's the fact that we're creators. And it doesn't matter whether I hold an energy that I love and want to show up in my life, or an energy that I'm terrified of and hateful of it ever happening. In fact, the one with all the terror behind it is the one that's the stronger creative energy and will produce the result.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is about facing those things and removing them, which can sometimes be a pretty painful thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here to do. Awesome. Let's go for it, Yinka. We're on to a good one. Glad you're here with us, Angela.
Thank you for helping me through this.
Well, we'll see when we finish how helpful. We'll see where that goes.
Right, the truth is.
One day, the truth is only my thoughts cause my emotional upset, and breathe. So the thought, a separate wake-up sheet for each thought I use to cause my emotion is. So what are the thoughts? We've already got one. I feel trapped.
I feel imprisoned.
So let's look at that thought, trapped. In order for you to experience this feeling of being trapped, what thought do you have to think?
Sorry, can you repeat that? In order for you to feel this feeling, this emotion of trapped, kind of ties right directly into a thought. What's the thought you think? What moves in you? I feel violated, I suppose.
Okay. But the thought, actually being trapped is really a thought on its own. And that goes along with those emotions of fear that you're talking about. But is there a deeper thought than just trapped that goes with it? Like, it might be, I'm going to be hurt again, or I'm going to be taken advantage of again.
Yeah, taken advantage of. I feel like stripped of my kinds of peace, really. The peace.
So would that translate into there's no space in the world for me to be at peace?
Well, yeah, in my own home, there is no space for me to be at peace.
When you say my own home, are you talking about like your childhood home, your early life?
I'm talking about my home here now.
Mhm. Okay. So what would be at this point, because you want to do a separate sheet for each thought, what would be, pardon me, the most important thought to work on here? I'm feeling taken, or I'm thinking of myself as being taken advantage of. There's no space for me to be at peace. You know, is there anything like I'm going to be hurt? I'm going to be damaged? You know, what specifically ties in with that
I
fear?
feel like I'm not, I really treasure kind of peace and quiet, I guess. And that's why the reason why I'm here. And I feel that that's now gone. That was sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Breathe a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of
Specific thought related to the fear you're engaged in here. What's the thought that you think that brings about this fear in this situation?
I suppose violation, of my space, my territory.
So my spot is being my space.
Yeah,
is being
my
violated.
territory, I suppose. I feel like it's my territory and it's been invaded.
Okay, that's good. All right. So what happens with your breath when you think that thought?
It's kind of like stuck in my chest.
Okay. So then I want you to just tap into that fear and that thought that my space is being invaded, and allow yourself to just take a couple of deep breaths and notice what happens in your physiology. What's happening to your physical state right now?
It feels better. The breath.
So you
Calmer.
feel
Calmer.
calmer. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you know one of the ways to calm yourself.
Mm.
You don't have to sit and be hopeless in the presence of this interfering noise. You can always close your eyes, go inside and just take a couple of deep breaths. And ultimately the truth is the calmness comes from within.
Mm.
It doesn't come from out there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then number 1E.
I'll just quickly say, just for those, there's a few in the chat that have got the same experience, so or felt a similar experience, that they may want to be going through the worksheet on their own stuff.
Yes.
As we go through the worksheet, and to remember to breathe. So 1E, I want to punish. So I want to punish yourself or the restaurant. In what way do you want to punish?
Yeah, I want to punish. I don't feel like I really want to punish anyone, because I'm aware it's not their fault. It's like it's just they're starting a business, they're very excited about it, and I don't feel like I want to punish them.
Okay.
But I feel
Is there-
like I am being punished. I feel like I'm being punished, but I don't feel like I want to punish them.
So I'd make a note of that, I'm feeling like I'm being
Mhm.
punished. How often in your life has punishment visited you?
Oh, quite frequently.
Okay. Do you suppose things would be different?
Sorry?
Do you suppose that things might be different if you could see, I mean, you've acknowledged that they're starting new business, they're excited about their lives and what
Mhm.
they're doing. Do you think things would be different if there were no concept in you of you being punished here? That, oh, here's an event, here's something that's happening. When I think I'm being punished, I'm now taking what someone else is doing personally, and probably they didn't even know that you lived there when they
No,
rented the
I
place.
don't think there has any idea that it's kind of, or you know, I feel a sense of disregard as well, that they didn't think about me really, you know, living here. Unfortunately, I'm the only neighbor, you know, so I've got no one to kind of discuss this with, this situation, you know, next to me. But it's yeah, I kind of, sorry, I was just reading that remark, you might get free dinner or food from them. Thank you. I don't want free food. So yeah, sorry, what was the
Well, just if you could be free of any kind of thought
mm,
from the past that punishment is heading your way, or that this is punishment,
yeah.
do you suppose that this whole circumstance might appear differently to you?
Yeah, yeah. And I have looked at that kind of, you know, I actually, I think the family that run the business are quite probably very nice people. And I know, you know, they're not trying to punish me. But
Right.
that feeling is, yeah, there, that I am being punished in a way.
Right. Okay. So in this circumstance, is there any thought of punishment towards self that
Towards
you
myself.
can acknowledge here?
Just yes, I suppose it's kind of, I'm punishing myself because I'm letting this external situation affect me quite badly.
So then it would sort of be, so you could fill in the self with, I let external things punish me.
Yeah.
Okay. And just acknowledging that thought can be powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. And breathe. You want to pick that one up, Yinka?
Yeah, so I'm willing to process all disease as I go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing.
So once again, there are two things going on. There's an external fact of what's happening, and then there's the internal response. Could you imagine yourself being able to embrace everything that is sourced internally that is uncomfortable for you? Can you imagine yourself embracing that and being willing to let loose of it?
So embrace the facts of kind of what's the situation that's going on. I don't know how.
Well, what I'm thinking of here is that there are clearly two things going on. There's a physical fact. A business that is a business that creates noise and smells and has cars parking and people coming and going is in your space. And that certainly, that energy is going to create a certain amount of disturbance for you. Beyond that, when you bring this is punishment, I'm being punished here, that's an internal process that is a dis-ease energy. You acknowledge many times in your life you've been punished. Could you imagine yourself being able to process through and let go of that component of the disturbance? Or at least could you acknowledge that you're willing to do that if you can?
I acknowledge that I'm willing to do that.
Okay. So the symptoms of healing. Yinka, do you want to take a shot at explaining the symptoms of healing?
For me, I see it as when you've got a wound and you've scraped your leg and you've got to go and clean it out. That first initial clean out can be quite painful, and often we don't want to go through that stage. I know I get quite nervous, like when you've got to go and clean it, and it's like, but that process, you need to go through that pain. That pain is the clearing out stage. It's not the suppressing pain.
Okay, and then there are three aspects of this clean out process that Yinka is referring to: the physical, the mental, the emotional. When you think of yourself, let's go back. One of the basic principles of this work comes out of Einstein's mouth. We are not physical beings. Einstein says this: on such things as matter, we've been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy whose vibrations have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. Einstein says we don't live in a material world. And when I recognize that everything is energy, then there are physical energies in me that move around this idea of punishment. If I've been hit before, if I've been abused, then my structure holds those energies. And even though no one is physically threatening you, just this thought of being punished can cause that physical energy, that energy that's in your physiology, to start to move. So in the healing process, as any kind of physical assault comes into the field, it leaves an energy behind. In the healing process, that energy is going to come back up and move out of your structure. So it can look like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had. And it can look like low energy. Oftentimes people will touch into a highly charged emotional issue that's got a physical component, and all of a sudden they're just wiped out. It's like, geez, I can hardly keep my eyes open. I'm so tired. And that's because the structure says, okay, we're going to process this old energy out. And to do that, it's going to take some work. It's a cleansing process. It's going to take some work to cleanse physiologically. Second level, mental. And a healing process on a mental level looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had. And generally, there'll be some confusion with it, because conflicting thoughts, when they try to come to the mind at the same time, create confusion. And then on an emotional level, it can look like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had, and depression. That's what healing can look like. And we want everybody to know that, so that you recognize that if there are any of those old energies in you, this may be the process that opens it and moves you through it, which is not Dr. Feelgood, but it's a part of the healing process. And we want everybody to understand that. So if you can just breathe with that awareness, okay, so, maybe on a physical level, if my punishment includes some kind of physical assault, you may actually experience that physical assault. Last week, or it's almost 2 weeks ago now, I guess, my wife has had problems with her neck. For years, she's worked at a computer and not always had just the right posture in front of a computer. And for probably the last 3 or 4 years, she wore what's called a TENS unit, an electrical stimulator on her neck with stimulators on her neck. And that would give her a mild shock that would tend to override the pain in her neck. It was severe enough that, that's what she turned to. And it got on for several years. About 2 weeks ago, she started to have a sore throat, a lot of coughing. She could hardly speak. She could hardly swallow. And in the process, one of the things that she touched into is that she had had this kind of sensation in her neck and in her throat once before, her throat and her chest, but it was primarily her throat, her sinuses. And that was when she was 15 years of age and she had mono. She was a school kid and had mono and had these same symptoms. So one of the ways you tell that symptoms are healing in process, there's several things that tell you that when you're symptomatic, your symptoms are healing. One of them is, have I been doing more and more of the right things? Maybe I'm paying more attention to my nutrition. I'm doing worksheets. I'm breathing. I'm doing my work. So that would be one of the things. And the second question you ask yourself, have I hit a new level of vitality? As you get to a new level of strength, you can reach into a new depth and throw off what doesn't belong. Another thing that tells you that you're in a healing process rather than a disease process is, in a disease process, there's a tendency for elimination to be restricted. In a healing process, there tends to be an increase in the output of the eliminative organs. The skin is sweating, the bowel, the urinary tract, the mucous membranes, the sinuses, the lungs can all start to expand their output. So what's happening with my elimination? And then oftentimes there'll be, when somebody goes into a healing process, a craving for some kind of an old drug that maybe was used a long time ago to cover these symptoms up, to shut this sort of thing down. And willingness, as this first part of the sentence, I'm willing, is a statement of, okay, so whatever's going on here, I'm going to grab it, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to let it move in me. Well, Jeannie spent about 5 days. We actually had to take 2 days where we played a pre-recorded radio show because she couldn't speak. On about the 5th day, all of the pain in her neck that had been there for several years, to the point where she was using an electrical stimulator several hours a day, was gone.
Wow. The
thesis being, she didn't remember the neck problems when she was a kid, but she remembered all the stuff in the throat and the sinuses and such. But that was, almost 2 weeks ago now. And after about 5 or 6 years of significant neck pain, that's 100% gone. She was miserable for several days. I mean, literally, she couldn't swallow. She ended up, she got a little concerned about it and went to her family doctor, her doctor, and her doctor gave her a couple of drugs, which, much to my objection, was, well, if you feel like you need an anesthetic to cover the pain, that's one thing, but drugs will tend to shut it down. So just be aware. And if you need to shut it down, then, go ahead and do that, shut it down. And fortunately or unfortunately, her throat was so sore, she couldn't swallow the pill that she was given. So she didn't use it. And along about day 5, 100% of the pain in her neck was gone from her body after being there for 5 or 6 years. And I mean, we did a lot of work. We did a lot of processing. She went back to some issues that were going on when she was a kid. You know, she actually, at the age of 16, left home and got married to escape, to get out of her home environment. So there was a lot for her to process and deal with. And in her willingness and the fact that she couldn't take the suppressor, you know, basically what a drug does is, yes, it can anesthetize or it can shut down what the body's dealing with, but shutting it down doesn't mean it's gone. It just covers it up.
Mm.
And when we become vital enough, the things that have been covered up will open up.
Mm.
And so just to know that that's a possibility and stand in the space of willingness for, you know, maybe if I go back to my, you know, earliest memory of being abused, punished, there might be, I've actually seen people who have processed physical abuse, and it's decades later, and the same bruises came out on their body that they had when they were physically abused as a young child. And this is an adult decades later. So just to be aware, and if any of that moves in you as you go through this process, if anything moves for you, I just invite you to remember the willingness and, you know, hang on to this worksheet as you do it, and stand in that willingness to embrace whatever moves. Because the symptoms of healing, you know, when you recognize, yeah, this has happened to me many times before, the details are different, but the same bottom line is there. That's what we're going to be inviting you to embrace, allow to open up in you, and process through to release. And of course, I'm sharing that with everyone who might ever touch a worksheet. And that reminder down the bottom of the page is a really important step in the process, to breathe, to keep the breath moving. It is, you know, in the ancient teachings, there's a statement that says, the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. And, you know, churchianity's interpreted that as, oh, that's a purple curtain in the church, it's going to be torn in two over a certain event. But actually, the temple is this body-mind unit. And the veil they were talking about there in the healing process is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. What we're looking to do is to open that barrier, which means that you get to face everything that's in you from the past. And sometimes even generational things will come to the surface for healing. So just a reminder to stand in willingness for everybody. Does that make sense for you, Angela?
Yes, it does, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
That really resonates with me when you talk about the symptoms of healing, because one of the experiences that I went through when I had the brain injury, and I was in some excruciating pain, and I was on so many different drugs and medication. One of the things I could sense is that I needed to feel my own pain. So as soon as I was able to speak, that was one of the things that I asked for, not for no medication. So I could tap into my own pain to feel it. Mm.
And, you know, one needs to find a balance in that arena, especially the way today's world works. I'm not saying don't ever use a drug, because there's no question there are cases where a drug can save a life. But there's a difference between saving a life when there's a life-threatening set of symptoms going on and healing. They're not the same thing.
Yeah,
And
sometimes the drugs is just to numb the feeling, isn't it, really?
exactly.
And it's not healing, it's just numbing that pain.
Yeah. And there are cases where that's appropriate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But to me, the thing is to be aware and to make sure that beside, if you know, one arena is treatment. Drugs are in the arena of treatment. And sometimes treatment is very appropriate. Healing's a different thing. Treatment isn't necessarily healing. It can be. Ideally, they're both put together. In cases where treatment is necessary or appropriate, great, but make sure you're doing your healing work at the same time. And this statement of willingness is really important in that. So let's go for the next one, Miss Yinka.
So 3A, my desire, the constructive result, the exact goal that drives my pain perception is that I want 1C, my trigger 2. What is it you'd like 1C, the restaurant, to do?
So the object of your worksheet is this circumstance with the restaurant.
Yeah.
And just a piece of background information with this step. You'll notice, and of course I'm speaking to everybody, you'll notice that I'm not sure, just a generally miserable person, that as long as everybody's fulfilling all the goals that you have for them, you're usually pretty happy with most everybody.
Yeah.
But when someone violates a goal that you hold for them, notice that's when upset surfaces. And this is a really key piece in the puzzle of forgiveness, because our goals are literally the things that access and drive our perceptions. And if our perceptions are based in unresolved pain, the goal is the key way to getting in and healing that unresolved pain. And we'll show you how as it unfolds. So here you want to be as specific as you possibly can. My desire, the constructive result for this restaurant is what? If you could have today, while you sit here, if you could write to the landlord of the restaurant or to the owners of the restaurant and say, here's what I would really like, what would that goal be?
For people not to be sitting outside, like outside my bedroom window, for where they're cooking outside, for it to be kind of covered so that I can't smell all the smells, and the extractor fan not to be vibrating through my floor, my flat, and the noise of it, so I can actually open my windows.
Okay, so that's what you don't want.
Yeah, that's what I don't. So that's my. You said if I could construct like what I wanted from as my goal.
Right. Yeah. And notice that you spoke about what you didn't want.
I did, yeah.
I don't want the extractor fan. I don't want the people sitting outside my window. I don't want this. I don't want it. And when we remember that this world is energy, if a middle C tuning fork's vibrating, it sends out a middle C.
So I should be.
Doesn't whether I stand there and say no middle C, no middle C. That's the energy that goes out.
So
and when I put out the thought, oh, I don't want this. Then what the body of what I'm focused on and creating is this. So what would be the ideal result you would like to have?
I would like to have peace and quiet. And
now, if you were doing a worksheet on you, if you were number 1C, I want peace and quiet, that would be appropriate. But that you're not, you could do a worksheet on you. In fact, I would suggest that you make a note and you do a worksheet around this whole situation where you're number 1C.
Okay.
And you do a worksheet on you. And that would be your goal. Just go ahead and make a note. Yeah, I want peace and quiet.
Yeah.
Be at peace. But right now, the object of attention, is the restaurant. So what would be the ideal outcome? If you could have it all the way you wanted it.
You see,
notice what's happening with your breath.
Yeah. You see, the ideal outcome for me would just be, is just to have peace, really.
Yeah. That now again, that's a goal for you.
Yeah, I know. So
now we're asking what your goal would be for this whole restaurant situation.
So the goal for the restaurant. I find that quite difficult.
Yeah. Do you know why you can't create it?
No.
Because you find it quite difficult to have the thought.
Yeah.
You can't create
Yeah.
something you can't think about.
Yeah.
And our creative process begins and ends with thinking. And
Mm.
if all we can do is think in terms of what we don't want, then
Yeah.
we keep creating it. What we're looking here is to let loose of the energy of what we don't want and move into what we do want.
Mm. So can you give me some guidance here then?
Okay, sure.
This.
Well, there could be a wide range of things. One of them might be for the owners or are they renting this place or did they buy it?
They're leasing it. It's 10-year lease.
Okay, so then it might be for the owner and the restaurant and the owner of the building to come to you and see if there's some way that they can support you having a cleaner space, a better space to live in.
Yeah, I would say when you say cleaner, what do you mean cleaner? The environment or?
Yeah, more pleasant environment.
Yeah, more definitely. Yeah.
And I notice as we're moving in this direction, it appears to me at least that there's a lot of energy moving in around your face, the lower part of your face here.
Mm.
Is there can you sense anything like that?
Yeah. There's tension.
What's happening?
There's tension, and it's like
Okay.
yeah, my face and my neck really.
Okay, so that's where you're holding a lot of this energy, and it
Mm.
looks, I mean, literally your physical appearance to me has changed, and now what that says is you're starting to process some of this old energy, perhaps the energy of abuse or whatever it is that's moving for you.
Yeah.
So that might be one direction. Another might be for them to find a better location and move.
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that would be just like wonderful, you know. That
okay.
was
All right. So notice your response with that.
yeah.
There's you see that, you notice the wording here, the constructive result. There it is.
Mm.
So then I'd put that in this space.
Yeah, that's constructive, but unfortunately, you know, to them, they're talking about how wonderful their environment is.
Yes.
They've got the perfect environment.
Right. But remember that right now, they're not part of this process. This is
No.
about you.
Mm.
This is dealing with the energy that's moving in you.
Mm.
And I noticed that you went from a place where it looked like there was more trauma moving in you to a place of lightness and joy with that thought.
Oh, absolute joy.
This is an internal process we're talking about now.
Yeah.
You might, as you end this worksheet, have shifted your energy so much that you go down and say hi to the owners of the restaurant and welcome and say, glad you're here, and I look forward to coexisting with you. I don't know. You might. I mean, that may seem unfathomable to you at this moment, but you're right.
It's not unfathomable, but it's kind of I did have a conversation with the owner yesterday, actually. I've had I thought the owner, well, I was told that the owner was her husband, and he hasn't, I wouldn't say, been very pleasant towards me, but she because I've contacted the council about it and made the complaints, she seen me yesterday, and she'd never really approached me before, and she came over and started, you know, asking about I said to her, you know, that I'd seen things on social media that I was complaining about the restaurant. I explained I'd never complained about the restaurant. I'd complained about the vibrations from the extractor fan coming into my flat.
Right.
And so she said, well, the council are coming over. She doesn't want any bad, you know, feeling between me and her and the restaurant. And I kind of said, I have no bad feeling for the restaurant or yourselves or anything, and I'm wishing you very well. And you know, I really like what you're doing here. It's a beautiful restaurant, but it's kind of this is affecting my quality of life.
Right, just not on my doorstep.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Okay. Awesome. So that's a good step. So did you fill in your blank on 3A?
My blank.
Yeah, your goal.
So, yeah, I mean, the goal is for the neighbours to support me into having a better quality of life. Would that be reasonable, do you think?
That would be a good one too.
Yeah.
I would also suggest you do that other one that brought such joy up in you, and that was that they find a better location, move.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, you could do both. So notice the whole shift.
Yeah.
You know, nothing in the external world has changed at all. But when you
No.
go back, I'm going to invite you to go back and watch this video again and notice when you changed your thinking, how you went from this trauma place to bright light and joy.
Everything changes in me when if that was my thoughts, it's all changes. It's no fear of coming home anymore or coming into my home, laying in bed, and everything changes, you know, to have that thought, really.
Right. So what if in the environment of what's going on, nothing in the external world changes, just you're thinking about everything? How different would your life be?
It would be good. Yeah. It would
Okay.
be great to,
Right. So you've come up with 2 or 3 different things. I'd suggest you maybe do a worksheet on each one of those, but take the one that right now seems the most realistic and practical to you, if you would, and put it in that blank in number 1 or number 3A.
Yeah.
You certainly do light up though when you say about them finding a new vacation.
Yeah,
There it is. Look.
Feel the joy.
Be like, oh, I'm so happy. Oh, this location is not really right for us, you know. Oh, I'll have a party for them, everything, you know.
Make them a cake.
And notice,
I'd give them anything they want.
notice your whole physiology's changed.
Yeah.
And nothing in the world has changed but your thinking.
Yeah. But the thought that I'm thinking isn't true, is it? This is the thing. I know that it's not true.
But my offering would be, if your physiology can change from a place of trauma to a place of joy by changing a thought, what if you were to think in terms of remodeling your whole thought system?
Yeah.
Toward whatever's going on in the world is going on in the world. I can be connected in it joy regardless of that.
Yes, yeah. And I can, you know, there's also things could be much worse. They're very nice people. And you know, when I was coming home tonight, they were, you know, very sweet and like, hello, how are you? And you know, but they're very nice.
Right.
You know, so it could be much worse.
And maybe they'll take some steps to ameliorate the disturbance, to make it a more supported place for you. And who knows what you'll create from there.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So you've got your goal written down in 3?
Yeah, for them to find more suitable place to run their business, really.
Okay.
About saying that, but that would be a lovely goal.
Right. Okay. So Corey, I see you've got a statement in there. When my goal really feels like unrealistic and not reachable, I don't know what the rest of your thought is. That's it seems like there's something else for you to add to that, Corey.
Should I say something or?
Well, you can just put it in the chat if you like.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where that's going. It seems like just half a thought.
Okay.
I'm going to say it suggests that maybe it's an assumption that it's unrealistic, like Angela
Yes.
spoke about hers, and then straight away she went into, well, that's not possible because, you know, they've got this 10-year lease, but that's your assumption that it's not possible.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely, let's say that, because they spent, you know, so many months and so much money putting a lot into this restaurant, and it's obviously a dream for them. It's a big thing for them, you know. It's something. The owner, the female owner, she's kind of you can tell she absolutely loves, you know, what she's created, her creation, and I don't want to dampen that. I love that. I think that's wonderful. It's just it's impacting on my life.
Right.
That's all.
Right. And I'll keep inviting you to notice that maybe the external isn't as important in the impact it's having on you as the internal.
Yes, for
And
sure.
as you let go of the internal, you may find a whole different creative resolution. You may find a whole different way to approach this thing that you haven't thought of yet, because there's been this focus. So
yes, yeah. And I'm the feeling that I'm getting, I'm sorry I'm going off track, but
you're not off track, you're right with us.
When this has happened in the past, I've got this kind of this feeling, this like very fearful feeling, and that's exactly the same thing that's come up again with this, even though it's a different kind of scenario situation, but it's given me like this bad feeling, you know.
But it's a bad feeling that's familiar.
Yes, it is familiar. Yeah.
Again, read, why is this happening to me again?
Yeah, exactly. It's the, you know, why does this keep happening to me? I need to read this book, but yeah.
That's the internal dynamic that we want to change. The why is this happening to me again?
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Corey, I'm not keeping up with your notes here.
I think she may mean that when a goal here is unrealistic, that goal that when it feels unrealistic, like when Angela was saying it was unrealistic, it kind of not unrealistic, but it's unrealistic that they're going to move that 10-year lease. I think maybe that's what Corey's saying as well. What if the goal's unrealistic?
Okay, that's what I'm not. That's why I'm asking Corey what's going on. When my goal really feels like unrealistic and not reachable, does that mean I don't know where you're going with that?
You want to unmute, Corey?
I'm communicating with Corey here.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other half of your thought is, Corey. When my goal
is
really feels like unrealistic and not reachable.
That is impossible, because that landlord told me that she has another, that she does want to do that different than I want. And she want to put me out of that flat, and she wants a lot of things which I did not have before. And before with the landlord, it was such a beautiful situation. And I want the situation the same than before with the old landlord. But that the unrealistic is, in my eyes, that she is not that old landlord. So she has another intention with that. So that is that intention, what she has and I have, does not fit. And that is then, in my eyes, that is my desire, but that is not realistic.
Okay. So Corey, I'm not sure. Have you got a situation going on with the landlord?
Yeah.
Okay. So then now we're confusing two different situations. So I'm not sure exactly where you're heading, where you're wanting to go with that. I'll just offer at this moment that when I do the forgiveness process, and I'm at this step where I'm looking at a goal that I hold, what I want to do is simply be honest and straightforward with what my goal is, because my goal has to do with my mind and it drives my perception. If in response to my goal, my mind says, well, of course, that's impossible, that's fine. That's not a problem. That's what my goal is. And I just want to be honest with my goal and then see what happens as the process unfolds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Really.
So whatever the goal is,
yeah,
it could be like, gee, all of the gods in the world have promised this could never happen. Okay, but it's my goals. So that's what I'm going to work with on the worksheet.
oh, that's great. Yeah, that it gives me release, because then I trust that I can allow that goal for myself in that
Yes.
situation. Okay, now I'm happy.
Cool. Okay. Great. So let's take a couple of deep breaths together, because we're getting into some juicy stuff here. And let's go to number 4. We're getting ready to move into the core of the forgiveness process.
So 3B, so that I can. So the goal that you're wanting is so you can what? So for them to find a new location so I can
live in peace.
Return to the state of peace. Okay,
Return
good.
to the state of peace. Yeah.
All right. Good one.
Yeah, which maybe I didn't appreciate so much before. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I choose love, my essence, which stirs love in everyone involved.
Mm.
So I choose love, my essence, which stirs the love in everyone involved. And breathe.
And the idea here at this step, whatever is going on in the world, somebody could be in the most terrible, horrible, painful, traumatic situation in the world. And if what's going on in them is terror and horror and pain, because of resonance, they're going to tend to stir terror and horror and pain in everybody they interact with. I don't know, if I have to go to the council people are likely to get that. If I have to go to the police are, the neighbors are. I call my mother, and my mother's in that state because I'm a resonating tuning fork.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we're offering here is whatever's going on in your world, from the most subtle conflict to the most dramatic trauma you've ever had. If you come to that situation as a state of love, things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Because you are a resonating tuning fork. Everything that moves in you, if there's somebody in the environment that has a similar energy to what's moving in you, it's going to move in them too. If I choose love, it tends to wake up the love in everyone.
Yeah.
It tends to move that in everyone. And everyone, even somebody who's buried in the deepest trauma and pain and hatred the world has ever seen, at the root of them is love.
Yes, at the root of us all, I think, is love.
That's it, exactly. And when I can when I lose that, that's my work.
Yeah.
And when I can regain that, if there's a chance that that other person might break through and come to the table out of a space of love, I'm going to have a better chance of doing it from this space than the other. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's breathe on that one then.
So the rose and the butterfly. Do you want to read this, or shall I read this out?
Oh, go for it.
So imagine we have a rose and a butterfly, and we give them each an ego. They meet and fall in love and have a wonderful time together. Then one day, the butterfly flies away Because the rose thinks there was nothing more important than the love of the butterfly, it uproots itself to give chase. What is going to happen to the rose? It dies. Why does it die? Because it made something else more important than staying connected to its source. Anytime we make something else more important than staying connected to our source, our being love, then we have disconnected and initiated our own death. Initiated our own death.
That's really beautiful. Where did you get that from? It's very
It's just a story that I've told for decades in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop.
yeah, it's very powerful.
So first and foremost, whatever's going on in my world, this worksheet is about me remembering who I am and staying connected to my source. Because when I disconnect from love, I start to die. Whatever's going on, if I stay connected to love, then I'm going to have the best chance of coming out the other side with the kind of result that I want.
Yes. It's very true. So
So 5A, when upset, my perception, my mind construct is built out of corrupt data, driven by my goal for #3. By cancelling that goal, the driver that selects the data that produces my reality, my errant perception collapses and I get to drop into the part of my mind hidden from me by pretense that others are responsible for what I have created again.
So just a little bit of a correction on that first sentence in 5A. When upset, my perception, my mind's construct. So there should be a comma after perception and then my mind apostrophe S construct. So what we're saying here, there's some interesting Harvard research. It goes way back to the 1950s. It's the most quoted research in all of psychology today, even now, 70 years later. And what they showed in the laboratory, they took a person to the lab and hooked their brain up to electrodes, and they're measuring brain cell firings. And in a time frame where they could measure 10,000 units of electrical activity, the max amount of data that went into their conscious awareness was 9 bits. So out of 10,000 units of memory moving, people could only be aware of 9 bits of that, a very tiny little piece of it. And so the mind produces its constructs, its perceptions based on the goals that we hold. If we're only looking at 9 bits of data out of 10,000, how different would things be if we were looking at a different 9 bits or still a different 9 bits? Obviously, the situation would be very different. And clearly, if we only get to see 9 bits of data, a little tiny framework out of this massive data moving, something determines which 9 bits we're looking at. What I'm offering to you is the driver for your perception, whether you're in joy or you're pain, is the goal you hold. So this step 5A is recognizing that when I'm in upset because there's something in me that's moving, that's being used by my mind to create the way that I see it.
mm-hmm.
And the thing that drives that process is my goal. So 5A, when upset, my perception, my mind's construct is built out of corrupt data. Whenever, again, we're beings based in love, whenever hostility or fear is moving. Now, this is kind of a challenging thought to most of the world because so much of the world is based in hostility and fear.
Yeah.
The offering is that what hostility and fear inside of the human being means is that my mind is using corrupt data to produce the world that I see, my perception, my mind's constructs. It literally is corrupt data. There's something, you know, it's like a computer. You put in, if the computer, let's say I put in 2 + 2, and the math program in the computer is corrupted and it comes up with 5. 5 doesn't mean there's something wrong with math. It means that there's something corrupt in the computer. Hostility and fear means there's something corrupt in us that needs to be healed.
Mm.
So the core of the process of forgiveness is you look at the goal that you identified in number 3, and then you cancel it. And here's what happens. By canceling that goal, the driver that selects the data that produces my reality, my errant perception collapses, and I get to drop into the parts of my mind hidden from me by my pretense that others are responsible for what I've created. So I've got this 9-bit mind, I've got this massive data moving beneath me, and my goal is causing my mind, when I'm in pain, to use corrupt data. When I cancel that goal, that perception collapses in on itself. When it collapses in on itself, it gives me access to the corrupt data. When I can bring the corrupt data forward in the presence of active love, the corrupt data starts to transform itself. I get to process through those old trauma reactions that maybe come from generations and generations of trauma reactions in my bloodline. So what I want to do is I want to process through those trauma reactions. So at least my physiology is at neutral and I'm connected to love. From that place, I'm going to have a much better chance of producing any result that I want. And that's where we want to get to.
Mm.
So what we're suggesting here is that you cancel the goal that you wrote in number 3.
Which was, well,
For them to find a new location.
Well, there were a couple different ones. I'm not sure which
Yeah,
one you
there
finally
was-
settled on, but
yeah, it was all about the peace. I mean, the one that made me most happy was the goal of them relocating.
okay.
So you're
So
saying
now-
cancel that one.
So here I am in pain. There's corrupt data moving in me. If they're the one with the problem, why am I the one with the pain?
Mm,
Now Yinkel is going to walk you through the action step. Here's where you take action.
right.
Okay. Action step. While whole and glove conscious, active and present, Rakma, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly cancelling my goal. Driver for 1C from 3A.
So you
And
bring your answer from 3A
Mhm.
down to this blank. So would you be willing to cancel your goal for them to move to a new location?
I got quite happy with that goal.
Held your breath on that one, right?
Yeah, that was kind of making me feel happy, you know, that goal. But yes, I'm willing to cancel that goal.
Here's what I'd offer you. That goal didn't make you feel happy at all.
No.
But what it did was it changed the thoughts that were resonated in you
It definitely did. Yeah.
from the goal about wanting them not to do this and not do that and not to do that and not to do that.
Mm,
It totally changed what moved in you.
mm,
My offering is that all of the stuff that was moving in you about I don't want them to do this, don't want to do, don't want,
mm.
all that is your healing process.
Yeah.
And when you free yourself of that, one, if you're stuck there and they're there and that's the way it is, you're going to have a whole lot better chance of being at peace.
Mm,
And two, you're going to be a whole lot better chance at creating a different resolution.
yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the resolution might look like. You know, they might say, gee, we're going to call a contractor in and we're going to work on that exhaust fan, and we're going to make sure that it goes in a different direction and quiets down. And we're going to put a you know, please respect our neighbors sign in the yard. And by the way, we're going to, and there may be some very powerful creative resolution that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll buy a pair of earplugs.
I've already bought those, several pairs.
Okay. Good. Okay. So hopefully, and this is the toughest piece in this worksheet, because, and I'm speaking now to everybody that's listening, because of course, whatever the goal is that I have, to me, it's constructive, it's wonderful. And why would I cancel that goal? That's silly. I deserve that goal to be fulfilled. And I say to you, yes, I agree. You deserve to have that, creator. Why have you created something different? And I'd offer the reason you've created something different, the reason you've created a why is this happening to me again, is because there are tuning fork energies in here that you haven't resolved yet.
Yeah.
And to create a permanent space of peace where you get support from the world in that, you're going to have to change that dynamic in you. Because guess what? The council could come along and say to you, we have a wonderful place just down the road, and we're going to pay your expenses to move there, and it's very peaceful. And you move there, and guess what? Somebody's going to show up to disturb the space.
Yeah, I own this flat, so that's probably, if I was renting, I probably wouldn't see it as too much of a problem, because I know I could just you know, give my notice and move out and find somewhere else. But
and who knows, maybe when you finish this worksheet, the owner of the restaurant's going to come over tomorrow and say, you know something, we've got a staff that's coming in. In fact, you know, I think you said it was an Indian restaurant.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe they're from, we've got somebody coming over from India, and we're going to have them working in the restaurant. We need a place for them. And we'd like to pay you twice as much as your apartment's worth, your flat's worth. That might be what happens tomorrow. I don't know. If you change the energy in you, things are going to change around you.
I agree. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
And
it's just it's about changing my you know, I think I live a life where I think everything should be, you know, my way. It should stay this way. It shouldn't change. And I need to change my kind of focus on the world and how it is, and be more accepting, really.
Good catch. Good catch. You look more centered and peaceful right now than you've been through the whole conversation. You look joyful before, but you look more centered and peaceful with that thought.
Yes, yeah, I am. I know it's the work has to be done within me. It's not external, you know. It's
and it's always nice when the external cooperates, but still I can do the work in here.
And it will if I do the work, you know. I agree with everything you've said, and it's it's about, you know, doing the work on myself. I think if it's not this, it's something else, isn't it? There's always something.
Good catch. So notice, by canceling that goal, which was kind of like a laugh to even think about doing it, but by canceling that goal, notice you shifted from your conversation, just spontaneously shifted from the external and how the external is a problem to, I realize I've got work to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a life-changing thought. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to the next step, because then there's another reinforcement point in terms of processing whatever comes up. Again, for everybody who's listening, canceling the goal, which is the driver for the construct of the mind collapses. When it collapses, it drops into the root, you know, into its own footprint. And I get to start to touch what's underneath that I need to process through. That's the core of forgiveness. And I'll just offer that literally it took me about 34 years working full-time with this process to understand this step. And why? Because way back, I mean, in the very beginning of doing this work, 42, 43 years ago, I was introduced to this idea of the word forgive in Aramaic means cancel and has to do with canceling goals. And it's like, that never made any sense. And in my work in teaching, I would once in a while with people, I talk about this idea of forgiveness is to cancel, and you cancel a goal. But it never really clicked for me. And then over a period of time, I had several people come to me that were in my workshops that said, you know, I've been doing that goal canceling thing and it's changing my life. It's like, really? Okay, well, I started looking and literally this has become my life study and my life's work. But it took about 34 years for me to understand you don't cancel a goal because you don't want it. You don't cancel a goal because you don't deserve it. You cancel the goal because every time you put it in your mind, it resonates your pain, your old trauma, your unresolved trauma. And when you cancel the goal, you get to drop directly into that and start to process through it, start to relieve yourself of that energy. That's what forgiveness means. It's got nothing to do with letting somebody off the hook because this pain is moving in me. It's how I get to the root of the pain and start to move it out of me. Okay. And then there's a second step, because when you start looking, oftentimes what people find is, yeah, gee, you know, I can remember my mom talking about stuff. Yeah, I even remember my great grandfather, you know, I only knew him, you know, I was maybe 5 or 6, but I remember him talking about, and it was the same story, the victimhood story. There's always something to get in the way. And oftentimes what we're facing here are literally generational traumas. And when you decide to become the early adopter and start to process through those generational traumas, it can be a pretty significant piece of work. And I noticed, Corey, you had a thought there. So reading what Corey said, do I understand right that to cancel my goal is feeling better and imagine what all could happen in a good way? So here's just a little bit different than that, Corey. When I cancel the goal, what happens is my corrupt data feeling, my pained feeling, tends to collapse. And it gives me the opportunity to go to a different place, which oftentimes will be better. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes you'll cancel that goal and you'll drop right to the root of that old pain and trauma and go into a full-blown healing crisis. That's why we explained earlier in the worksheet the healing process and the statement of I'm willing to embrace these things, so to be with them. But specifically, when I cancel the goal, my reality, my perception collapses. That's what gives me access to processing through my pain and being freed of it. And yes, that's what it's about. It's about freeing the soul.
Then 5b, I invite in Aramaic, it's Ruka Kadushka, to incline me towards healing, restore me to my newborn essence love, heal my denial and capacity to generate my emotions of 1b, which is fear. Help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, dissociated and projected part of my mind. And breathe.
So I do 5A, I cancel the goal. Now, if I'm dealing with a generational pattern and I just have this little, what we'll call the 9-bit mind, how am I ever going to process through generations and generations of pain? It's not likely to happen. What was taught 2,000 years ago in the Aramaic language was that inside of each one of us, there was this, what in Aramaic would be called a feminine elemental force. You know, the wind, air, heat, these are all elemental forces. They spoke of another elemental force that was inside of us. Ruka Dekudsha is what it was called in Aramaic. And what it speaks of is that there is this force that will undo the effects of my errors. If I give permission, if I stand in willingness and I'm willing to face this generational trauma, no matter how big it is, and I'm willing to have it removed, and I've done the steps of keying into love and canceled the goal, then by inviting this power that's inside of me, it will begin the process of unwinding and undoing those old generational traumas. And if I'm listening, if I'm really listening, I will be taught the truth of every situation I'm involved in my life. I'll automatically start to move in the direction of thinking differently than my generations have taught me to think. So here you're asking this power to do several things, to incline you toward healing, to restore you right back to that original essence of love, to heal my denial, and even to be able to develop a reality to develop an emotion of fear. I'm willing to have that lifted from me. Like, what would your life be like, Angela, if no matter what happened in your world, you could not generate fear about anything?
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
How different would life be?
Oh, it'd be great. Yeah.
So my offering is the human mind is designed to operate on a proper fuel. The proper fuel for the human mind is love. Fear is like putting water in a gas tank. It destroys the function of the mind.
Yeah.
So here we are going back to, so I'm asking to have that lifted and to get me back to a fully connected conscious relationship with love. And then out of that space, start to process these old patterns that keep plaguing my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense for everybody that's listening? Any questions about that? So once again, I don't cancel the goal because I don't want what I've identified or because I don't think it's right, or I cancel it because when I put it in my mind, it causes my mind to use this corrupt data, this pain, this trauma. And I'm ready to be done with trauma. So I cancel the goal, the pain perception collapses. Now I'm asking this, we could say in our modern language, this super processor in me to go to work. I'm willing to have this all lifted and be taught how to stay connected to love so that my mind is fueled properly. My physiology is fueled properly. Go back and hold a newborn child. And, if their belly's full and their diaper's empty, you'll notice that what's there is the presence of love. That's what's designed to fuel us our whole life long. But that does not serve kings very well. Kings want people who on command will go kill other people and take their property because the king wants it. We're designed, I would offer, just like that newborn, to be fueled by love. And each and every one of us have generations and generations and generations of rage and guilt and fear and pain and trauma. And sooner or later, somebody in the bloodline has to say, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna process through this. Jonas Salk, the man who invented the Salk vaccine, made a statement that I think is far more important than his Salk vaccine. And that is, he said, the most important thing to be is a good ancestor. A good ancestor faces what the generations haven't faced and cleans it out of themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
That's what this is the master tool for doing that. And Corey, no, I'm not suggesting that you love yourself at all. Again, this is an error that the world has made. They've said, we come into the world, the newborn is love. If you hold a newborn and tap into their essence, and as you tap into their essence, is the newborn loving you? Well, obviously not. The newborn doesn't even know I'm here. Is the newborn love? Yes, the newborn is love. It's a state of being. It's not something we do. But we live in a culture that is specialized in knocking the love out of us and then sending us out the door 15 or 16 years later to find somebody to love us or find somebody to love.
Yes.
And we're now on a false pursuit. You can't get love from somebody else. Nobody's ever loved you. Nobody's ever going to love you. you've never loved anyone and you never will. You either function as love in someone's presence. It's usually fairly easy with a newborn because that resonance is there. They're already living in that state. And if you carry some form of hostility or fear, to get back to that, you're going to have to process through what never belonged in you. And my offering is hostility and fear never belonged in this human organism. Now, that's not exactly a popular conversation in the world because kings don't want to have that conversation. Hard to get people to go kill people and steal their property for a king. If you're functioning as love, people won't do that. So we've got years of brainwashing to overcome. That's the work of forgiveness. So at this point, Angela, if you would, just, I cancel my need to be right.
Cancel my need to be right.
Yeah, I'm going to let go of my need to make another story out of this hidden corrupt data.
And make up another story out of my hidden corrupt data. Hallucinate proof that my fear, hostility-based story, my reality is true.
So it's getting out of the habit. Somebody can do a forgiveness process and they get an insight and go, oh, that's great. But the mind still has the pattern there. So it's easy to fall back into the pattern. This is just an acknowledgement that I'm not interested in going back to this pattern of making another story up out of this fear and hostility. I'm willing to change the whole direction of where I'm going. And to do that, breathing and just letting your whole physiology, let your breath move through your whole physiology so everything just softens in you. Everybody breathing? Interesting, if you take those words we spoke of earlier, rukajukucha, in Aramaic, the word there is breath. That's this elemental force. It's the breath. The Greeks translated as spirit. It's nothing about a disembodied spirit being there. It's the breath. So this is a place to really, and to take time every day to practice being connected to love and being in the movement of the breath through you. How are you feeling, Angela?
Oh, much better, Michael. Thank you so much. It's yeah, it's so insightful and amazing, what you're teaching. It's yeah, I feel very blessed to have this knowledge.
It's something to keep in front of you and make a new habit. It takes time to develop a new habit. When we've got generations and generations, it's been easy to default to the old hostility and fear game.
Yeah.
It takes time. It's a practice. So we invite people to go into the practice. And what I suggest to people is that they make a commitment to do at least one worksheet a day for the next 40 days.
Yeah. I think that's the only way, isn't it, to get the mind's working in such a way and to keep practicing it as well, the kind
That's
of
it, exactly.
what's coming up, and that's the only way to do it, really, is to keep doing the worksheets until it becomes habitual in a way, and then it changes your thoughts.
Yep, exactly. Nice, good work. So let's move to the next step, Yinka.
Yeah, so
Excuse me for jumping in on top of you there. Go for it.
6A, I now feel, and I can see that. So I now feel.
So I think Angela kind of automatically went to that. She said she's feeling better and that she's seeing that she's going to have to develop some new habits.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yep.
7A, a principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. I am grateful for the opportunity to heal. I choose truth and perfect love. See, the restaurant based on
The goal, number 3.
the goal from love. I structure a goal towards you and offer to you.
So to the owners of the restaurant,
Mm.
what do you see? Thank you for joining us, Corey.
Hi, Corey.
What do you see yourself being able to offer to them?
To the restaurant.
Breathe. And you've already done a
To be
pretty
a
good
good
job.
neighbour. To be a good neighbour, I suppose.
Nice.
Yeah. To
Okay.
them. For us to live in harmony together as neighbours, should have a very good neighbourly relationship.
Awesome. So I jot those things down.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
And from love, work out
Maybe
anything that
maybe a
needs to be
free
worked out.
maybe a free curry on the way.
There you go. Hey, that'll
Yeah.
never hurt anybody. Yeah. Cool. All right.
And the best exercise I know to practice and strengthen your ability to hold space of love is to close your eyes and allow yourself to become quiet. With your awareness focused inside, think of that which inspires in you the clearest, strongest, most powerful love you are capable of feeling.
And joining each of you in doing that and just being in that space and connecting to that presence of love. And Miss Gina, you have a thought for us? As we tap into that love? Go ahead, Gina.
I thought you said Yinka. Okay, yeah, that was lovely. My question is, Michael, I noticed that you did, in my opinion, quite a convoluted worksheet. Can I get the same results from the very simple ones that I tend to use?
Each form, there are many different forms of the worksheet. And the objective is to build the brain cells to go to the deepest levels. There's actually a short form worksheet that's only 3 steps. And yes, you can get very profound results from that simple 3-step worksheet. Yes. You look at your object of attention, you locate the goal, you cancel the goal. That can be very powerful. I suggest practicing with the longer forms so that you build deeper and deeper awareness. But yes, you certainly can.
Yeah, but the ones I do are like, I don't know, are they level 3 or 4? That sort of level where they're the 12 questions, 11 questions.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Each one, there are dozens. I literally have developed thousands of worksheets over the years, and basically on the website we have a record of many of them, because and there are different things that we put in different worksheets over the years. This is the most succinct one that I found to help people to really start to learn the process. But yes, there are, as I say, there's a simple 3-step one and all the way up to the 12-step. So
I really enjoyed it tonight, and this is the Michael I know and love, to going through the worksheets, because it helps all of us. So thank you. And
awesome.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
Delighted joining you in that, young lady.
And that is the last slide. So we will play music to finish off the session, just a little bit to end the session. And, if anyone wants to support Michael in these teachings, you are welcome to send any donations, which will be really helpful, because to show appreciation as well for him joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate very much, Michael. Thank you.
Honored, delighted, glad to do it.
Oh,
Glad you were
bless you.
courageous enough to
Thank
step
you.
forward and say, I'm going to go for this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to invite you to go back and rewatch the video,
Yeah.
and just
100%.
really paying attention to your own facial
Mhm.
expressions, your own physiology.
Yeah.
I think you'll learn some things about yourself.
Yes.
And before we close completely, does that leave any questions for anybody, and how the process, what the process means, how it's done? I mean, knowing that there are probably 1,000 questions, but are there any that are germane at this point before we close that someone needs some assistance with?
I'm just going to share, because and I know, recently I've had a realization of my own inner talk dialogue, and one of the profound things that I've realized is how hidden these thought processes are from ourselves. I didn't even realize I thought the way I thought until my awareness came to it, out of a load of synchronicities that happened, and I came to realize a really deep force. And I've read the book, teach a lot of this stuff, but I didn't realize until that moment how profound it is that we hide something so small but so big from ourselves. And a lot of our thought and beliefs are hidden.
Well, if you talk to a psychologist today, they'll tell you that somewhere between 80, 90, 95, perhaps as much as 98% of our thinking is unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of this worksheet is to put you in touch with your own unconscious so that you are a conscious creator. I mean, we're all creators. You can't not be a creator. But if you're creating unconsciously, things come bite you in the butt and you go, where'd that come from? Why are they doing this to me again? Or why am I doing this to myself again? As I get conscious, I get to work through those things. So thank you all for joining us. Blessings. All right.
Thank you.
Gina, who's asked for the video to be sent, can you email me? Because I won't be able to take video. So if you just email me, I can send it to you. But
the video, the one that I did when I did the worksheet. Have you still got it?
Oh yeah, I'll still have it. If you must email me, I'll send you them. I'll go through my list, but I will have it with your name on it.
Okay, yes, please, because I want to look at my own physiology and everything, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they're also, I think all the videos are also on our YouTube channel. If you go
I
to
don't
YouTube,
think mine is actually. Is mine not on there? Is it, Yinka?
if you go to YouTube and just type in Michael Ryce, R-Y-C-E, I think all the videos are there, along with dozens and dozens of others that will help to fill in the blanks for this process.
But I remember Yinka asking me, can I put it on YouTube? And I said, no.
In the world of
I shall check that.
All right. I'd love to see it again. It was horrible going through it, I must say, but yeah, thank you anyway.
Yeah, when you come out the other side, it's definitely a lot better.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Blessings.
Thank you. Bless you.
Right.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Good
All right.
night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
One second, I'll just share my screen again.